Okay, we're recording there.
That was recording.
Okay, we're good.
Good. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:31 and look to Eric to take the roll.
Chair Cash Parker.
Here.
Vice Chair Matt Crabtree.
Here.
Melinda Ellswick.
Here.
Lauren Cooper is not here as of yet. Joe did let me know he was not going to be here this evening. Ken Chu.
Here.
And CJ Cullinan is not currently here. So to be noted for staff, we have Eric Sampson, Planner 2, Madeline Hinkfuss with Communications, Brian Isom, Planning Manager, and that is it. Oh, we might have a... CJ and Lauren. Okay, let the minutes reflect that CJ and Lauren are now present.
Okay, sorry, my computer is taking a minute to connect to the internet, so I am working off memory, but I think next is approval of the minutes on the agenda, is that right?
That is
Eric?
correct.
Okay, are there any changes or discussion about the minutes from the April meeting? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from April?
So moved.
CJ moved to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Ken seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 I heard ayes from everyone, Eric.
Yes,
So
so did I.
the minutes are approved. I think next is public forum. Is that right, Eric?
Yes.
I don't see anyone in the room and I don't see anyone online from the public, but tell me if I'm wrong about that.
No, you are correct.
All right, I think that takes us to new business. And I think the first item is Madeline's here from Communications. Yeah, my memory was right. Madeline is here from Communications to talk about potential outreach options for the historic landmark designation process. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm here from Communications. Eric and I just have been chatting about the landmark designation, and we were trying to figure out how to get the word out there a little bit more so people are aware of it. And so today I just kind of started, or last week I started looking at the website, and I was like, if I wanted to designate my home, like how would I, do it? And so I started with the website. And I think it just needs a little bit of help. Right now, it just says application instructions, the process, and the form. So I was hoping tonight we could talk about how to update the web page, and then we can also just go through some other tools that we can use to get the word out there. So just doing other research, there was a lot of other cities that just provided more information, like what are the benefits of the landmark designation? Does anyone receive any recognition for it? What are, let's see, are there obligations to property owners when you're going to designate your property? Just simple questions like that. And then we could also have a living FAQ section for people. And then also just a map. Littleton, one day when you guys have a bunch of houses, you could have a map and where everything is designated, and then people could go look at it also. So, yes.
What does living effect mean?
Living question and answer. What? Frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
It's like
So the idea that if this week this question's asked more, it moves up on the fact list or something?
Yeah, I mean, my thought was as we start getting applications in and we start moving applications through the process, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions about certain aspects. And so it's not just like a set in stone FAQ, it's something that we can amend as needed as we think the
It's not something
information
the
becomes.
computer notices.
No, it would be all.
Probably more of making sure that staff is updating it as we're getting
Yes.
it.
Yeah, as we're getting.
Oh, I see. If you get 15 questions.
So it could be anything from like, am I allowed to replace my windows? Or like, how long will the application take to go, the process to go through? Even though you already have it in the application, sometimes people just like it there. So I was thinking that we could start with a discussion about what the benefits are to historic landmark designation, and we can go from there. And I'll make it pretty later, but I'll just take notes as we go.
I used to think that tax credits was the benefit, but I went to a tax presentation from Sarah with the Historic Colorado, and we have to be a CLG to actually get tax credits.
Okay.
And so right now,
No, if you're, for federal ones, you can be a, commercial property, income producing property, and you get them.
okay,
So for CLGs, it's the grants that are, you have to be a CLG to get the grants.
she handles the tax credits. That's what she does. Sarah, I didn't bring her name.
Okay.
I could look it up, I guess.
I think there's different sections for like an income property, like a commercial property, and then different one for residential, where like a homeowner lives. Is that what you're thinking?
No.
Or just overall for all of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to be a CLG to get tax credits, because the tax credits are like an individual building owner or homeowner that gets those, versus like a CLG is like a citywide, municipality-wide thing.
Yeah, okay. Oh, it's just, I said, but no, da, 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 and she said, no. If we're not CLG first. I always thought it was just landmark status, that's all they need, and then they can get tax credit. Maybe it's federal, is something different?
We need to, confirm that, because that doesn't, I mean, I'm not saying
No.
you're wrong, but that just doesn't sound accurate. But, I mean, recognition is like a core benefit, of just, hey, you have a historic property.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Littleton site. Benefits and obligations, recognition is the first benefit on here. Upon designation of historic landmark, owners receive a plaque from the city to display on their landmark. Under tax credits, it says federal historic tax credits are available for income producing properties listed on the National Register of Historic Places. State income tax credits are available for state and local designated historic landmarks and contributing buildings in designated local historic districts. And there's links to more information on here. Littleton apparently offers a city property tax refund. We have that here. And a sales and use tax waiver. But I mean, I would say starting with Littleton or someone else and maybe linking to the same stuff they're using would be the place to start.
Okay.
And Littleton isn't totally explicit about this in this regard, but based on the discussions we've had with the city attorney's office, I'm sure they are going to tell you that it's going to have to be caveated as like, it may qualify.
Of course, yes.
Type of thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what we had in that letter, because we had a few good benefits in that letter before it was taken out. I don't remember what they are now. Does anyone else? Or do you have like an earlier draft of that one?
Should have it.
Can I go back to recognition? How are you guys gonna recognize that? Is it just like, yay, or are they gonna get a plaque, a certificate? Do you guys know?
We had talked about a plaque. Matt was looking into how much they would cost, but that would be something in addition to the application fee.
And I mean, I think like recognition on the city's website, if we get,
Okay.
the map and we
What
can
about
start
the
adding.
city council
Oh, yeah.
with a little certificate?
Yeah.
I mean, just something.
Is that something we could do? Have,
We don't have our city council person here today.
have city council recognize it in some way? I mean, other than like approving.
But aside from approving it, I
Like
mean,
what we do recognitions, you know how they do resolutions and stuff?
I don't know that they're doing resolutions right now, are they? I know they're doing recognitions,
I do, yeah. I know there's.
but we can check into it.
Okay. So we'll look at the letter that was sent out to properties to look at those benefits then. Sound okay? Okay, so then we just talked about the recognition. And do you guys know what the obligations for property owners are if they get this designated landmark?
They're detailed in the ordinance,
Okay,
but yes, certain changes do need to be approved.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, once it's recognized, the elements that contribute to the character of the property that led to the historic designation
Okay.
cannot be altered without approval of
okay.
this commission and the council.
Mhm.
So Middleton has an obligations for property owners with landmark
Mhm.
properties section that seems pretty good to me. It said, there's two major bullet points. Exterior modifications and additions require city approval, and some of this might be different in their ordinance. There's some other bullet points there. And then upkeep and maintenance. Owners of designated historic properties are required to keep up with maintenance of the structure and the landmarked property. Though our ordinance necessarily requires that.
I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the language straight out of the code is before performing any construction, alteration, relocation, or demolition involving the exterior of any landmark or property within a district, the owner must first submit the proposed work to the Historic Preservation Commission and request the certificate of appropriateness.
No, you have to create a certificate of appropriateness, huh?
So nothing for the interior.
Correct, they can
Yep.
change toilets all they want.
Very good. Okay, anything else with that? That's kind of straightforward. Okay. Have you guys had any questions about this? Any common questions that people are asking?
Have we had any responses to the letters at all?
I've gotten 2 phone calls.
And anything interesting?
No, one said that she was gonna get married and she wanted to wait until she got the name changed before applying, so she didn't have to go back and change the title.
Oh, but she's intending to apply.
Yeah, that's what it sounded
That's
like.
cool.
Yeah, and then the other one, I talked with her for a little bit and she seemed kind of on the fence about it, and that was it.
Any major questions?
No, the biggest ones were like the additions and alterations, questions about that, and then that was the big one on that.
So the question I do have is, with ADUs being approved more in the city of Englewood, can historic people do ADUs in the back?
That's a very good question. My guess, I don't want to speculate, but my guess is the answer is probably, if you're not messing with the historic character of the designated building.
Yeah,
And I think it would depend on how you designate their site.
yeah.
That's
Designating part of their property as the historic,
Yeah.
you know, what's causing the historicalness, I want to make sure I'm saying it. Then yeah, it would likely have to come back, or if, say, a portion of their property, the garage is what is historic, then yes, if they want to alter the character of the garage, it would likely have to come before you. But if you're only designated the building, then it may not. So that's something that we'll have to work on internally to make sure we have those routes figured out, but I also think it might depend on how they're designated.
It's usually like you designate the whole property versus just the building, but it would just depend on like when they're describing the significance and the character defining features. If setting is a part of that, then that's where adding a building might come into play.
Because there was one house, in considering historic annual years or whatever, the house was built in 1929. It still looks the same from the outside, but they added a carriage house in the back in 1978 or 79. And so now the idea is that's that 50-year coming, whatever, but it was added later. Would they still put the whole thing together or just the house?
It depends
Well-
on how they write the nomination, and I should say just what the significance is, some properties it could be both, and some properties it could just be the original home.
I'll jump in here real fast. I've actually been looking at what other historic preservation commissions are doing across the metro area. I'm just last night I went to a Aurora HPC meeting, and it's actually really interesting. There's a lot to be learned there, and I'll have a few more questions probably a little bit later on how they do it compared to how we do. But on their agenda was a property that where the fence was actually needed to be approved. So the property owner wanted to add a fence, and it was up to the Historic Preservation Commission to do the certificate of appropriateness for actually putting a picket fence in. So that being said, now that may be how Aurora does that, but it'd be interesting to see what Littleton and a few others do, and I intend to probably sit in on a few of those meetings too to see how they handle those situations and potentially collaborate there. So I think from that standpoint, you look at it with if you have a house that's of historic importance, for instance, the Tom Skerritt house, if somebody wanted to build a ultra modern ADU right next to it or right behind it on the same property, would that be a concern? Well, the way that Aurora does it, probably. I'm sure we can do it the way that we want to, but if you can imagine having an ultra modern 2-story something built right next to the Skerritt house, that would kind of detract from the nature of the property, right?
So we do have in our ADU regs that the style of the ADU must match with the existing residence.
Yeah, true. That's fair. So,
But it's like, if the house used vinyl siding, they could use cementitious fiberboard. It just has to match in appearance. So it's not like, specific building, like wood siding from the early 1900s, 1920s, 30s, 40s. They're likely not going to use that on an ADU, but it has to appear similar, not necessarily exact similar materials.
Makes sense.
okay.
Back to the question,
Mhm.
one other thing I was thinking is just like, where can I go for more information? Like link to the library's website or, well, both libraries, Englewood Library and Denver Library, Sanborn maps, just find some different sources to include with that. Or I guess more information on my house, like researching my house is what I mean, sorry.
Yeah. What would you say the maps like?
Sanborn maps, they're in different locations.
They're like old
Okay.
fire insurance maps, is that right?
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't know, I'll respond.
Or even Arapahoe County, is it the permits department? I don't know, where they keep all their old records. Why am I totally blanking on this?
I know, the GSI was the guy I talked to.
Just the assessor, really. Yeah, they should have like old property records. So.
So I was told this recently, maybe you guys can answer it if this is true. Arapahoe County parts of it were previously in Denver County.
Denver was in Arapahoe County until it became a city and county. And that year escapes me. I want to say the early 1900s.
Okay, so maybe we'll add that one to the list too, because there's some things that we can't find in Englewood's records because it wasn't in Arapahoe County at the time, so it would have filed with Denver.
Oh, I think it was the other way around. Englewood's always been in Arapahoe County.
Englewood has
Oh.
always been in Arapahoe County, but Denver wasn't Arapahoe County until it became an independent
what it
city
is?
and county.
Okay.
Englewood's always been in Arapahoe County.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there was one point in time where they considered Englewood being the county seat versus Littleton. There was a really bad fire that happened at the Arapahoe County Courthouse sometime right around 1900, and all the property records at that point I think were lost. So I'm not sure if that's what you were talking about. How far back are you talking, Brian?
It was the stuff from like the late 1800s.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's interesting to note that any home built prior to 1900 in Denver or in Littleton or Englewood, generally they estimated the construction date on that because the property records were lost. So tidbit of history there.
Yeah. As a
What's that?
Colorado historian, I would like to point out that originally Arapahoe County went all the way from the Front Range to the Kansas border. There were only 6 counties in those days, and that was in the territorial days. Just saying.
Trying to one up me there, Melinda?
That's right.
Any other questions? When I was looking at this, one question I had was just like, can anyone apply for this? Can any home? Or does my house have to be, like 100 years old?
Significant. It's at least 50 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I feel like a lot of it going on.
No, I think that's a good
Yeah.
question. I put it in there.
I mean, we were leaning towards, what significance does it have? Is it a type of architecture that's new or original or unique? Is it a house that actually housed someone that was famous or someone that made a difference or something?
Yeah.
What other ideas cross your mind?
Just for like archaeological purposes, we had one of the reasons is, I forget how you phrase it, but just kind of like a geographic patient, or it's like, I want to say it like took into account views or something like that. But then the other big one is like patterns of events or development that a building is tied to.
So I was even thinking some of the buildings that are now like apartments or offices that were grocery stores. I mean, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool if they went for it.
My next door neighbor has a home and one of those buildings that used to be a grocery store that's next to our house. Yeah. In that, it's labeled instructions, but there are 5 criteria in there that speak to all of this that you can look at. For purposes of the FAQ, it probably makes sense to maybe shorten them because this is a little wordy. It's half a page, single spaced, but this is where all that information that we're talking about is located.
Yeah, we kind of have a nice list in the code, just like items 1 through 8. This is kind of like a criteria list that we can just.
The years question is a good one because I would have that question too. And so I think where it landed is, generally speaking, I think over 50, that is a factor in favor of designation if it's older than 50, but it does not have to be 50 years old to be historic.
Yeah, language in the code is properties to be considered for landmark designation are typically at least 50 years old. So we have the typically in there to give us some wiggle room.
Anything else that you want to add? If it's designated, is it designated for?
Does it resell? I know that's been the question. If I do all this work and I sell it, will that building still be protected? Technically, the answer is yes.
It does. Yes. It carries with the title, the deed.
Yeah, sorry, Matt, what were you saying?
I don't know if you can hear me very well. Yeah, it carries with the deed of the property. So
Some people may wonder whether or not it's actually harder to resell it if it's been designated.
Yeah.
It has been because people think that means I can't change the toilet.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes we overestimate what that no is without even asking.
There's been like studies on it done though, so I can link the economic benefits of preservation, so we can like link to those too.
Not only that, but environmental.
Yeah.
Saving wood and brick. that isn't there anymore.
Which I guess that, I don't know if that would really go in the benefits section, but I could, maybe, I don't know.
And that, is it harder to resell the property if it's designated? I don't know that we're gonna be able to put an answer on the website to that. That's a really difficult.
I agree. I'm just
question.
taking notes.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good
Questions
question.
will come up.
Mhm.
I think that's where you just point them to the resources and they can
Mhm.
come to their own conclusion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the reality of the answer to that question is, it depends, right? And it depends who the buyer is. It's gonna be harder to sell it to a developer, for instance.
Any other questions you guys have gotten? I know a lot is in the documents that are already on the website, but those can be a lot to dig through, so just trying to.
I don't know if you wrote this down, somebody mentioned it earlier, how long does it take to go
Yeah.
through this
Oh, that's a
process?
great one.
And I don't know the answer to that question, I confess, because we haven't done one yet.
Yeah. There's something, the process is on there, it's linked on the website, but I don't know the exact.
There are some timelines in the municipal code for action that has to happen, so,
Okay.
We can kind of estimate,
yeah.
you know, a minimum or an average takes about, you know, at least for us, if we're doing an ordinance change, we know it takes about 4 months.
Yeah.
Just between all the noticing that we have to do, all the readings at Planning and Zoning Commission, public hearings at City Council, 2 readings at City Council, we just know how long it takes. That's like, just from, if you were to do a perfect submittal, that's how long it would take. On average, it's more like 5 to 6 months. But
Yeah, because once it's completed, it has to be set for a hearing before this commission within 60 days.
30 days.
30 days. 30 days. And then I think council has a certain amount of time to act on a recommendation of this commission.
That's the 30 days. So in the code, we have 45 days after an application is determined complete. It would go before a public hearing with HPC, and then after the HPC decision, then it would be the 30 days to city council hearing.
So yeah, I think we can rough out a timeline or put
Yeah,
put
we can
those
work together.
things on there.
Yeah.
So it's not really. Another one, and this is, I'm just looking at the instructions. I think something like, can only the owner of the property nominate it for a landmark designation? And the answer to that question is no, but the owner has to consent to the nomination. Maybe something like, may I seek assistance in preparing
ask the question.
this application? And the answer is yes,
But not from us.
but not from anyone on the city council or the Historic Preservation Commission. The instruction form says that, it says that you need to list out parties responsible for completing the nomination, and that this individual or organization is also responsible for any follow-up communication with the Historic Preservation Commission. So anyone could do it, like for instance, someone involved in Historic Englewood who's not a member of this commission could help someone complete this. An attorney could do it, obviously, numerous other
The staff,
people.
right? Didn't you say that the staff would definitely be?
Staff, you could, yeah, you can contact
Okay.
Eric, I assume, we'll get those contacts.
I think on the webpage too, just linking, like you said, any resources for people just to be able to look up.
Yeah.
Just to start somewhere. And then, do you guys have like an example?
We did two.
We did
the dry
the
run.
Spirit House.
No,
Yeah, so we did, and then we did the David Brown house, but I mean, I don't know that we could really include those since they haven't gone through the process. They're not actually landmarks. So, I mean, would it be confusing to include like the National Register nominations for properties that are listed?
I think so. I think it'd be confusing because if I'm looking at something, I want to make sure I'm looking at something that's within the 5 miles, 10 miles of my house. Yeah, that's about as big as Englewood is, right?
It also might be kind of intimidating if
Yeah,
they're looking
yeah.
at what is submitted for a nationally registered historic place
Probably
versus.
quite a bit more in
Yeah,
depth than our
'cause
process.
Those are a lot more robust, yeah.
Because it's the federal
Well, we
government.
did talk at one point about having the Scarrett House go through with what I would call a complimentary fee. And I never thought about it at that time, but it could be our dry run. Because we were talking to maybe of giving them a plaque, you know, like the first 10 people or whatever that did it gets a plaque from our budget. Everybody remembers that.
Wasn't there some complications though with waiving the fee? I thought the city attorney's office had weighed in on that as a kind of a.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure waiving the fee requires council action is what the city attorney's office told us. I mean, as far as having an actual example, I think until someone applies and one
Totally
gets
fair.
approved,
I,
we're probably
just
not
a
gonna
simple
have
question
one.
when I.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
a totally fair question.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, any other FAQs that you guys can think of? Like Eric said, as you get applications, we will add to this.
Yeah.
And we'll flush this out and come up with some responses for it just by looking at the code and linking there. But anything else with the FAQ?
I had it in my notes to like make a list before this meeting.
I mean, this is in all the information, but the application fee.
Yes, yeah, is there,
It's
yeah.
$200.
Yes.
It's non-refundable.
How about something too about what is the fee for?
Yeah.
I mean, what's it paying
Oh.
for?
And Brian and Eric can add their color to this answer, but I think the answer to this is it will not cover the amount of time that city staff spends on any one application, I don't think, but it is to defray the administrative costs that city staff
Yep,
spend
That's a good one.
dealing with the
Defray.
application. This one we don't know the answer to yet, and it's a later agenda item, but like the plaque and how much that costs will be one to put on there. And hopefully like a picture of it, maybe.
Yeah, that's
You know
I
what
was
is so
thinking.
interesting is considering it being bronze or something metal and knowing that the Martin Luther statue was stolen purely, or that plaque was purely stolen just for the metal.
Really?
They caught the guy.
I don't want to cut it off too early.
No,
but-
I'm just thinking, I'm sure we'll think of more.
Right.
And just like we said, as they come in, as people have questions.
Yeah, and if you, like I said, if you look through that instruction form, a bunch of the responses to
Yeah.
this question are in there, you can wordsmith
Yeah,
it to something.
Exactly, make it shorter.
Palatable,
It's a great
yes.
document. There's just a lot of information in it.
Because the thing with the plaque cost, it'd be cute to show a picture of it.
Yeah, for sure. Have you guys finalized the plaque?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago.
The design, yeah, the production is the matter that we're still working on.
Matt, do you mind sending it to Madeline?
Oh, yeah, I'll send you a picture of it. I'll do that, or we'll probably see. I mean, I've been bringing it to the last couple of meetings, the prototypes. So
Drawing
so
or something?
what's that?
Just a drawing of it? Or-
Oh, I don't have that right in front of me right now. but-
Okay, well, to move on to the communication tools to get the word out about this, after we update the website and you will approve it, you guys could do a magazine article in the Englewood magazine that goes to every residence and business in Englewood. The mini magazine is what we're calling. I'm not sure if anyone's gotten their utility bills lately, but you open it up and we call it the mini magazine, but it's just a 8.5 by 11 sheet about, what's going on for the month in Englewood. So that goes to anyone who has, a water bill or a utility bill. So that we just started this year and have found a lot of success with. We can put this on social media. That's pretty easy. And then if a commission wanted to have a table at any type of special events, that's also a great option, just to spread the word. So we've got neighborhood nights coming up this summer and then other special events.
So if the commission chooses to do like a trifold
Mm-hmm.
or a tablecloth, that.
Yeah.
Who would pay for that?
That would probably come out of HPC budget.
Oh, okay.
And we have extra tablecloths, but it wouldn't say like HPC.
Would you say Englewood?
Englewood, yeah. But those are also great ways because you're meeting the community where they're at. And they're already there having fun. So those are.
Well, how would that work out since we're not allowed to be two people together and?
Oh, yeah.
We did talk about this.
That's one we'll talk to the city attorney's office.
Yeah.
I think he already said.
Well, I think the discussion, if I remember correctly, was if you're gonna do something like that, it has to be noticed as a meeting, right?
Right.
Isn't that what the city attorney's office said?
Oh, okay.
Is it, I can't remember, is it 3 people as a quorum or two? Can you do 2 and not have an issue?
I think you can do two, right?
I'll have to refresh.
I don't remember what it requires to have a meeting noticed.
Because I'm just thinking more of like emails, like I can email one member and for a membership business and that's fine, but if I email 2 at the same time, then that's when it becomes an issue, right?
It's 3 or more. It's 3 or more. So two people getting together in a casual scenario, not discussing, the matters at hand is okay, but it's when it's 3 or more is what my understanding is.
So then it would be a possibility to have a booth with the 2 of you, just to talk about the application process.
And with the magazine article, like how would that come about? Is that something we would need to draft it and then share it with you? Is that something that you all would start and then we would approve or?
So typically we have someone on staff that writes the articles. So they would probably talk to Eric or anyone on the commission and look at the website and write an article from there. And then you guys would review it before it would
When's
go
the
to
next
print.
one coming out?
So everyone should have just gotten their magazine. So the next one comes out in fall, and I think that's technically our August issue.
Not till August.
Quote me, but I believe it's August.
And then to get in the utility bills?
Yep,
how far
so
in advance do they have?
we need just about 30 days. So like when the utility bill will come out on June 1st, we would probably, it's about 3 weeks, so like the beginning of May, we would have needed the information for you, so.
And is there like a wait list on those? Like-
No,
Oh, there we go.
not yet, so.
And those are monthly? Or
No, I'm sorry, they're new, so I'm thinking, we do those 8 times a year, so we do those on the months that the magazine does not come out.
Okay.
But we get our bills quarterly. Water bills?
Not anymore. Not anymore.
I think they're monthly, I get mine
Oh,
every
that's
month.
right, it is.
Yeah.
That's right.
Used to be. Used to
Yeah.
be quarterly.
Yes, you're
But we
right.
have a touch point 12 times a year with the public, so we can either get it in the magazine or in the mini magazine. And it's gonna go to everyone, which is really nice.
So is there enough time between now and August to get like a full article in?
Oh, for sure,
Okay.
yes. Definitely, if you guys think that's the route you want to go, we could definitely get that started. Put it in the blueprint.
And I'm sorry, so you would want that by June?
I mean,
If you want it.
I think just the idea of when you want it, the sooner the better, whatever month. And then the magazine, then the writers would reach out to you probably in July, if it's an August magazine. Don't quote me on that, but a month or two before.
I mean, I think if we can do all of those, that would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
And there's no reason not to do any
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
those.
yeah.
That sounds great. Okay, well, the first step is updating the website. So we can work on that, and then do you want to send it out or come back to the next meeting? How does that work?
I think the stuff that we have there
Mhm.
is basic enough that we can probably just kick it out. And then
Okay.
everybody can check it out, and if you have any changes you want to be made, we can update as we go.
Okay, anything else you need from me?
I was gonna say, the other thing that we've been working on, and since CodeNext was adopted, is we've been working on one-page flyers that are much more visual and colorful than what you guys have on your website right now. Y'all's is very text-heavy, and we've been putting a lot of graphics there on our webpage. We can work on one of those for this process, or for this commission, to try to catch more appeal,
Well, I noticed all the,
and we put them out front.
yeah, all those things that hold flyers and stuff, they're all empty. One downstairs and the one out there, anyway.
I skipped over that. That's just like the basic one, so.
Do you need anything else from?
No, I don't
us?
think so. I think we
Okay.
can get started.
Okay.
We have all the information we need. Just more direction was super helpful, so. We'll touch base then, okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
Cool. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
me,
much
guys.
for your
Thank you
time.
very much for coming tonight, appreciate it. That was helpful. All right, the next item on the agenda is somewhat related, and it's about, the agenda item says Historic Englewood Promotion of Landmark Designation, and we had a little bit of conversation last month, and Matt has weighed in on this. I'll probably turn to him first to talk about this since he's so involved with Historic Englewood. But basically the thought is to get some folks who are not members of this commission from Historic Englewood, probably to come to one of our meetings to learn about and talk about the landmark designation process, because those folks are not constrained in the way that we are in promoting it or talking about it. So Matt, I'll look to you to discuss that a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a number of board members. Obviously, with the museum stuff going on right now, we've been stretched a little thinner the last few months. So, wasn't able to get anybody there tonight. But let's plan to have some Historic Englewood members potentially at the meeting, HPC meeting next month, and we can talk about this a little bit more. But you know, briefly talking about some of the limitations that are imposed upon the commission. I think it's going to be pretty simple to get a number of either our members or our board members to help with the process. And you know, we can think of a lot of properties around town that I think would be viable. So, but yeah, I don't know if there's much more to be said about that other than the fact that Historic Englewood is willing to help, and we can talk about it at our next board meeting, you know, and see where that goes.
And I'm also always, open, as I think we should be, to anyone else who can promote this. I don't know what other, I'm not as familiar with as some, like I'm looking at Lauren, as with other organizations out there that might be able to, I don't know, put it on their website or promote it in some way, shape, or fashion.
I don't know. I mean, Colorado Preservation Inc. comes to mind. They wouldn't necessarily put it on their website because they don't really do that sort of thing, but like.
Or link to ours, I guess what I mean,
Yeah, but they're like the statewide nonprofit that just promotes preservation and advocates for it. So I think they could help in some way. I don't know.
Food for thought for future meetings, I think. But Historic Englewood is obviously the most obvious choice. And I don't know, Melinda or Matt or CJ or anyone, I don't know if like Historic Denver or Historic Littleton, did they get involved in this? I haven't looked into that. I don't know.
Well, I think it's relatively apparent that the HPCs that exist in Littleton and Denver and Aurora operate a little differently in this, and I don't want to talk about this too much because I don't have a whole lot of information on it yet. But I think we probably should, at some point in time, request legal to come back. The city attorney's office to come back, and maybe we can look at some of the comparisons between what other commissions are doing. I've been working very closely with Aurora, and they've got a little bit different scenario, whereas their historic society is actually, their historic museum, historic society is all within the city, function. But it was interesting to note that last night at the Aurora HPC meeting that they actually have in their processes them as being a quasi-judicial board, a requirement that the commissioners go out and find properties that are in Aurora that are could be potential designated properties, and specific if each commission member would sponsor that. So a little different. Not sure what the differences are from the standpoint of what the city attorney's office have come about with, but on that. But Aurora definitely does it differently. So I want to get a little more information on that and kind of go from there.
Yeah, and we've spent so much time with the city attorney's office, I don't want to rehash all of that again, but the city attorney's opinion, which we're, essentially bound to follow, is the opposite of what you said about what Aurora does. Not only do we not have that in our ordinance, but the city attorney's office has told us just the opposite about what we can do, which is why I put this agenda item.
Sure. Well, we can kind of work around it. It's just interesting to see what the other commissions do and what the other areas do. But we can work around it with Historic Englewood, and we're happy to help. Absolutely. In fact, if we can have some information, we can put it in the museum. We can also put it. We're going to be revamping our website for Historic Englewood at some point in the future. We can also put some information up there too, and I can see a good partnership there.
Perfect.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
thought of two more organizations. Do we have any official neighborhood organizations, neighborhood associations, anything like that?
Well, Madeline has, drummed up that idea of neighborhood groups, and I have to be honest, I don't know the numbers. Some of them do newsletters, some of them are just more social, block party type stuff.
I feel like
she would know that. She has like monthly or bi-monthly kind of neighborhood meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there's something going on in some areas. For instance, like those folks from Forest Hill, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine they have something that would be a vehicle for disseminating information in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest Forest Hill.
What is it, DDI, what does that stand for? Downtown Development?
The EDDA. Englewood
That's what
Downtown
I'm
Development
thinking of.
Authority.
Are they, is that a vehicle we could use to promote it, or is that tied to the city too much?
Is that a board or commission of the city or an independent organization? I don't know.
I don't know if I know the answer to that one, but we could definitely reach out to them and talk to them and talk to our direct supervisors.
CJ mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. That's definitely an organization that's independent of the city of Englewood.
And then y'all mentioned Madeline. She runs our neighborhood program. So I'm on their webpage. There's a neighborhood resource program. There's a welcome to your neighborhood webpage. That might be another one that y'all.
Okay.
It's interesting that she didn't recommend that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're so in the picture, you forget.
Anything else before we leave that topic?
Nope, we'll talk about it at the next board meeting, but I'd be happy to you know, kind of champion that effort on the historic Englewood side. I think we'd be a good partnership on that.
Great. Thank you. Old business, that's you again, Matt, the landmark plaques. Not that you're old business, but.
Yeah. I have some updates, and I'm still doing research on it. What I'm realizing is that, you know, so the material costs have gone up, not terribly, for the approximate material used to manufacture the last plaques. That now ranges somewhere between $110 to $160 in materials. It's because it's bronze, copper's gotten really expensive. So that's the base materials alone. Milling it, obviously, you know, with the limitations put on the commission members, milling it, me doing the milling work on it might be a problem. We still kind of probably have to work that out. So most sign shops do not mill the signs, the actual plaques, they'll cast them. The other option is, and this was actually just brought up recently, so I'm following this, is if possibly instead of doing bronze, they'd be made out of aluminum. That's slightly cheaper. Interesting enough, talking with Aurora, that's what they're doing now. They previously had bronze plaques. They're now doing aluminum plaques. The cost per plaque for the aluminum is right around, and this is completed, i.e. cast, completed, done in volume, is right around $200 to $300 per plaque. So that's a rough estimate. I would imagine that the time involved for adding that on top of the material cost for bronze is quite expensive. So I'm still working through this. I don't have a definitive answer yet. Hopefully by next meeting I can have a little bit more information. But it kind of gives you an idea of where the costs are with this. It's quite high.
The aluminum is an interesting option. Have you seen one of those, Matt? What do they look like?
I have. And I don't know if I can I don't know if I can bring something up here. Aluminum plaque. I mean, you would assume, let's see here. It's over here and over here screen. I mean, you know, you think about a historic plaque. And okay, can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be an aluminum plaque. So you think of a historic plaque, you think of something bronze because that's just traditionally what those have always been. But see if I open this image new tab here.
But the plaque that you've created is totally different than that. It's more of a drawing.
It is, but I mean, this is not milled. This is cast. The example that's being shown on the screen here. So, I mean, it's just a different style. So I'm getting quotes on casting right now for aluminum to see what that comes in at, and casting for the bronze.
So are you looking at a rectangular thing with our little logo on it, just like that bottom thing is there?
It would be the same plaque that we have now. The same prototype, would be the same everything. The benefit is having a tangible prototype, a tangible item, is that they'll be able to sand mold that and create bucks off of it. That I think we've all proved that. I don't see an issue with that being cast. It'd be nice if we could, you know, kind of squeeze our way through the first ones here inexpensively and do the milling, but that sounds like that's less of an option. So I'm still looking at things. It's a little tricky here. So probably by the next meeting, I'll have a better update.
Yeah, can I interject here? I used to work at a non-ferrous foundry, and once the sand mold is established, then you can keep making molds out of it, and so the real cost is the metal, because you actually even reuse the sand. So it's just the cost of the metal, and depending like aluminum, depending on the type of aluminum you use, you can get some of it cheaply. Old pop cans or previous aluminum castings that were a bit flawed, and you throw them back into the crucible and melt them down and pour them again. So it's like establishing the sand mold and then the cost of the metal.
Mhm.
Yeah, the aluminum is an interesting option because people might prefer that because of the cost and also CJ, as you pointed out, like the bronze represents a theft risk potentially as well, whereas aluminum does not. And that aluminum looks good.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
So I'll plan to come to the next meeting with some cost estimates. Problem is there aren't many foundries that do this locally. So as much as I would like to have this something that's local to Englewood or at least local to Denver area, that may not happen.
Yeah, I knew two, but they're both out of business now, I think.
Yeah. So I'll plan to have 2 quotes available for the next HPC meeting. One for bronze, one for aluminum. Nobody does milling. Really, it's too expensive. Takes too much time. I'd love to have the opportunity to have the high school mill the plaques, but I don't know about the practicality behind that.
Sounds good. Thank you for continuing to shepherd that process and looking into that.
Yeah.
Good. Let's see, that is the end of the old business part of the agenda. So staff's choice, Eric and Brian, or Eric or Brian.
I don't have anything this time.
I don't have anything either.
Commissioner's choice. CJ, I'm going to start with you for that.
Do I mention the letter or do I wait till
Sure,
later?
that's why I'm
Okay.
starting with you.
I sent a letter today to Cash and Eric and Matt about my resignation. I really want to be involved with people to do this, to move it forward. And if your hands are tied as commissioner, I personally would not, that's not what I want to do. And so I'm putting that forward. And so just like anything, you can see things evolve, and I'm like, would be like a little advisory committee that would be that type of people that want to help people move that forward, whether it be historic, Englewood, 1 or 2 of those peeps or whatever. But anyway, the thought just crossed my mind, but that's where I wanted to go. But I do want to still encourage interest in Arapahoe Acres 75th anniversary. We have 2 dates set in stone for garden tours, June 8th, $25 tickets. And then we're going to give a percentage to a nonprofit. I'm pushing for Historic Englewood, so we'll see where that goes. And then September 15th, it's going to be tied in with our Chalk Fest. And we're going to have some jazz music out in the street, so it'll be kind of fun. And that is a home tour. And then we've had lectures on tax credits, which was fairly attended to me. I would have liked all 124 homes there. And then we had our reception for Diane Ray Tomaso, thanking her for her work in Englewood as well as Arapahoe Acres. And it was really neat because City Manager Sean came and spoke, saying why he selected Arapahoe Acres as his home, but also his respect for the work that Diane Ray had done. So I thought that was really cool. Good success.
All right. Well, I'll take the next commissioner's choice, which is to thank you, CJ, for your service on the commission. You've been here the entire time I have, and I'm sorry to see you go, but I think what you're looking at doing is incredibly important work, and I'm glad to have someone in the community to act as our first partner to do that for us. And I hope that you continue to come to our meetings, public forum, keep us apprised of Arapahoe Acres and other events. Obviously, you and anyone from the public, but especially you are welcome anytime at our meetings. So thank you. And yeah, you'll be missed certainly. And then I guess the corollary to that is, Eric, if you can start the process to get a replacement on the commission.
Yep, I'll notify Jackie.
Yeah, okay, great. Because I think, because I'm doing the Citizens Planning School tomorrow night, and the purpose of that event is to encourage people to join boards and commissions, right? Or isn't that one of the purposes of that event?
One of the purposes.
Yeah. And I've asked this before, but I'm double checking again. I don't have to be prepared to talk about anything specific at that, just my experiences on this commission, right? Okay, good. Great. That's all I have for Commissioner's Choice. Kat?
Nothing for me.
Lauren?
Nothing, except for I'll echo Cash and just say thank you, CJ, for all your hard work on the board. That's been great.
Melinda, Commissioner's Choice.
Nothing from me, just fond farewell, and I hope to see you again to CJ.
Thank you, Linda.
And finally, Matt.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so I'll echo your statements there, Cash. That was on point. And CJ, thank you for the work that you've done in the commission. You've been here since the beginning, and your work on the researching the neighborhoods and the various work with Arapahoe County was instrumental in building the foundation to get the neighborhood map going, and its success is largely because of the work that you did. So thank you for that. So yeah, and on other news, the historic Englewood Museum opened. We're kind of in a soft opening phase right now. So if you want to stop by, we're open 10 to 2 on Saturdays, and I'll put all of you on the guest list so you don't have to pay admission. But we're gonna have a grand opening with ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce, probably sometime in June. But would love to see you there, and let us know what you think about the museum. A lot of cool stuff. So.
Yeah, congrats on that. That's a cool accomplishment. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I think that brings us to the end of the agenda. So I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by CJ. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lauren. We'll be adjourned at 7:34.
Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you.